God is with David, and he's become greater and greater. He is now king over all Israel, and he has captured Jerusalem and established it as the city in which he will reign. But as he begins his reign as king over Israel, David realizes that something very important is missing, and he wants to go get it. Let's see what this chapter brings. I'm in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 1, reading from the New American Standard Version. Now David again gathered all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. And David arose and went with all the people who were with him to Baal, Judah, to bring up from there the ark of God, which is called by the very name of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned above the cherubim. We have not heard anything about the ark of God since early in 1 Samuel. Remember, the ark was the symbol of God's presence. In 1 Samuel 4, Israel took the ark of God into battle with the Philistines. They lost the battle, and the Philistines took the ark. God sent plagues on the Philistines because they had the ark, and the Philistines said, "We have got to send this back before it kills us." So the Philistines sent the ark back on a new cart with an offering led by 2 cows, and the cows led the ark straight back to Israel, to Beth Shemesh. But remember what happened. God struck down some of the men of Beth Shemesh because they looked into the ark. In total, 50,000, 70 men were struck down. So they said, "Who is able to stand before the Lord, this holy God?" So they called for the men of Kiriath-Jearim to come get the ark. And the men of Kiriath-Jearim put the ark in the house of Abinadab. And they consecrated Eleazar his son to take care of the ark. The ark has been there 20 years. But now the ark is on David's heart. 1 Chronicles 13 is a parallel account to our chapter in 2 Samuel 6. Here is what it says in 1 Chronicles 13 verses 1 through 3. Then David consulted with the captains of the thousands and the hundreds, even with every leader. David said to all the assembly of Israel, "If it seems good to you, and if it is from the Lord our God, let us send everywhere to our kinsmen who remain in all the land of Israel, also to the priests and Levites who are with them in their cities with pasture lands, that they may meet with us. And let us bring back the ark of our God to us, for we did not seek it in the days of Saul." We know that Saul hardly sought the Lord himself, so we're not surprised that he didn't have any interest in acquiring the ark of God and having God's presence near. David wants God's presence near. Continuing verse 3, 2 Samuel 6. They placed the ark of God on a new cart, that they might bring it from the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill. And Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, were leading the new cart. So notice they are transporting the ark in the same manner that the Philistines did, on a new cart. But the Philistines didn't know any better. They weren't God's people. They had not been given ordinances as to how the ark should be treated. God had instructed his people through Moses as to how the ark should be constructed, which included how it should be transported. Exodus 25:12 through 15. You shall cast 4 gold rings for it, and fasten them on its 4 feet, and 2 rings shall be on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. You shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. You shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark, to carry the ark with them. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark. They shall not be removed from it. So the ark was to be carried using the poles. And not only that, God instructed who would carry the ark. It was the sons of Kohath from the tribe of Levi. Numbers 4:15 says this: when Aaron and his sons have finished covering the holy objects and all the furnishings of the sanctuary, when the camp is to set out, after that the sons of Kohath shall come to carry them, so that they will not touch the holy objects and die. These are the things in the tent of meeting which the sons of Kohath are to carry. With that background, let's continue in 2 Samuel 6, verse 4. So they brought it with the ark of God from the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, and Ahio was walking ahead of the ark. Meanwhile, David and all the house of Israel were celebrating before the Lord with all kinds of instruments made of fir wood, and with lyres, harps, tambourines, castanets, and cymbals. But when they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah reached out toward the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen nearly upset it. And the anger of the Lord burned against Uzzah, and God struck him down there for his irreverence, and he died there by the ark of God. David became angry because of the Lord's outburst against Uzzah, and that place is called Perez Uzzah to this day. So it seems well-intentioned, right? They're moving along. The oxen nearly upset the cart with the ark of God on it. So Uzzah reaches out and takes hold of the ark. The Bible tells us the issue. This is irreverent toward God. So God strikes him down. Same sort of issue the people of Beth Shemesh had when they looked into the ark. The ark represents the presence of God. It is holy. In Numbers 4:20, God warned Moses and Aaron that not all priests could touch the most holy objects. It says, but they shall not go in to see the holy objects even for a moment, or they will die. This was why God had given clear instructions as to how to carry the ark with the poles so this problem wouldn't happen. So the celebration comes to an abrupt halt. David is angry. We don't know if he's angry at God or angry at himself, because maybe he realizes he did not execute this in a way that is pleasing to God. Continuing verse 9, so David was afraid of the Lord that day, and he said, how can the ark of the Lord come to me? And David was unwilling to move the ark of the Lord into the city of David with him. But David took it aside to the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. Thus the ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months. And the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. Now it was told King David, saying, the Lord has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that belongs to him on account of the ark of God. David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness. So David is now assured that they can bring the ark of God into Jerusalem. Everything will be okay. Not only okay, but they will be blessed by the presence of the ark. But this time they do things differently. 1 Chronicles 15, this is the parallel account, verses 11 through 15. Then David called for Zadok and Abiathar the priests, and for the Levites, for Uriel, Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, and Aminadab, and said to them, you are the heads of the fathers' households of the Levites. Consecrate yourselves, both you and your relatives, that you may bring up the ark of the Lord God of Israel to the place that I have prepared for it. Because you did not carry it at the first, the Lord our God made an outburst on us, for we did not seek him according to the ordinance. So the priests and the Levites consecrated themselves to bring up the ark of the Lord God of Israel. The sons of the Levites carried the ark of God on their shoulders with the poles thereon, as Moses had commanded, according to the word of the Lord. So we don't know why they didn't seek God according to the ordinance at first, but now they are obeying God's law. Now the ark is being treated as holy. Back to 2 Samuel 6, verse 13. And so it was that when the bearers of the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed an ox and a fatling. And David was dancing before the Lord with all his might. And David was wearing a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel were bringing up the ark of the Lord with shouting and the sound of the trumpet. Then it happened, as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, that Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked out of the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord. And she despised him in her heart. Now, isn't this a strange scene? It says all the house of Israel is bringing up the ark. It's a huge celebration. Everyone's out there rejoicing as the ark of God comes into the city of Jerusalem. But not Michal. She is up there looking out of the window, and she sees her husband dancing before the Lord, and she despises him. Now remember from 1 Samuel, Michal loved David. She even helped David escape from her father, King Saul. We'll find out shortly what her issue is. Continuing verse 17, so they brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in its place inside the tent which David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. When David had finished offering the burnt offering and the peace offering, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. Further, he distributed to all the people, to all the multitude of Israel, both to men and women, a cake of bread and one of dates and one of raisins to each one. Then all the people departed, each to his house. But when David returned to bless his household, Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, how the king of Israel distinguished himself today. He uncovered himself today in the eyes of his servants' maids, as one of the foolish ones shamelessly uncovers himself. So David has been rejoicing and praising God. He has worshiped God with offerings. He has blessed all the people. You can imagine he's in high spirits. He returns to bless his own household. Now Michal comes out to meet him and chastise him. And you can just hear her tone. How the king of Israel distinguished himself today. We find out her problem is the attire David wore. She says he uncovered himself. Verse 14 says he has on a linen ephod. 1 Chronicles 15:27 adds that he's wearing a robe of fine linen with all the Levites who were carrying the ark. So he's wearing priestly attire rather than his royal garments. In Michal's eyes, he has lessened himself. It was unbefitting for him as king to be dressed in such a way before the people, leaping and dancing no less. Michal doesn't seem to care one bit that the ark of God is now among them. She has no interest in worshiping or praising God. She is more concerned about David's clothing and stature than the presence of God. This is how David responds. Continuing verse 21. So David said to Michal, It was before the Lord who chose me above your father and above all his house to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore I will celebrate before the Lord. I will be more lightly esteemed than this, and will be humble in my own eyes. But with the maids of whom you have spoken, with them I will be distinguished. Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death. David said, you will not steal my joy. This is not about you. It's not even about me. It's about the Lord. And you just have to love David's reminder to her that God had chosen him above her father and all his house. Michal is worried how he will look to the maids. He says, I will be distinguished before them. He is the king, but he had a more important focus. His eyes were on the Lord. This last verse, Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death. This could have been God not allowing her to bear children, or David not choosing to have relations with her. But either way, it seems to be God's doing. Saul will not have any descendants through Michal who could vie for David's throne. I love this key phrase in this chapter, before the Lord. Verse 5, David and all the house of Israel were celebrating before the Lord. Verse 14, David was dancing before the Lord with all his might. Verse 16, Michal saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord. Verse 17, David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. Verse 21, it was before the Lord. Therefore I will celebrate before the Lord. When you are clinging to God, your life is lived before the Lord. Not looking to the right or the left, worrying what people think or what they will say. You're not trying to please people. Galatians 1:10, for am I now seeking the favor of men or of God? Or am I striving to please men? If I were still trying to please men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ. Clinging to God means eyes fixed on Jesus, pleasing him, worshiping and praising him, dancing before him, delighting in him, enjoying him. I love that David was enjoying the presence of God. That's what relationship is about. Do you enjoy the presence of God? Live your life before the Lord. Take the time to celebrate before him in the big and the little things. Enjoy the blessing of clinging to him.